Have you ever wondered how certain ideas become so dominant that they seem like the only logical choice? This is where the concept of hegemony comes into play. This term refers to the dominance of one group over another, often supported by legitimating norms and ideas, but it's not just about dominance. It's about the ways in which these dominant ideas become so ingrained that they seem commonsensical, intuitive, and the only conceivable reality. Hegemony is a term that has its roots in the Greek word hegemonia, which translates to dominance over. Originally, it was used to describe relations between city-states, but its usage in the sphere of political analysis was somewhat limited until Antonio Gramsci, an Italian politician and Marxist philosopher, took it under intensive discussion. Gramsci's exploration of hegemony was driven by his quest to understand the survival mechanisms of the capitalist state in the most advanced Western countries. Gramsci's interpretation of hegemony was not merely about brute domination or coercion. He believed that in advanced capitalist societies, class rule was perpetuated more subtly through intellectual and moral leadership. A hegemonic class, according to Gramsci, is one that is able to secure the consent of other social forces. This consent, however, is not a one-time achievement. It is an ongoing project that requires a group to understand its own interests, as well as the motivations, aspirations, and interests of other groups. The concept of hegemony goes beyond just the dissemination of dominant ideas. It also involves the ways in which such ideas are accepted as normal and commonsensical. Under capitalism, institutions of civil society relentlessly shape mass perceptions, and hegemony requires the articulation and distribution of popular ideas beyond narrow class interests. So, the next time you find yourself unquestioningly accepting an idea as the normal or the right way of doing things, take a moment to reflect. Could this be the result of hegemonic forces at work? This is the power of hegemony, the power to shape what we perceive as normal and right. The term hegemony has roots that stretch back to ancient Greece. The word derived from the Greek term hegemonia, which translates to dominance over. This term was primarily utilized to describe the complex relationships between the various city-states that dotted the ancient Greek landscape. Each city-state, whether it was Athens, Sparta, or Corinth, sought to exert its influence, its hegemonia, over the others. In these city-states, hegemony was a matter of power dynamics, a balance that could shift dramatically with the tides of war, diplomacy, and alliance. Athens, for instance, was known for its naval prowess and intellectual wealth, which it used to influence other city-states. Sparta, on the other hand, was renowned for its military strength, using this as leverage to maintain its position of dominance. The term's use was somewhat restricted to these political contexts, remaining within the realm of Greek political thought and practice. However, the concept of hegemony would not stay confined to the annals of ancient Greece. It would instead find new life and broader application under the careful scrutiny of one Italian Marxist philosopher, Antonio Gramsci, who would rejuvenate the term and imbue it with a depth of meaning that continues to resonate today. Gramsci's interpretation of hegemony moved beyond simple physical dominance or power over others. It incorporated the idea of intellectual and moral leadership, of how one class could perpetuate its rule through the dissemination of its ideas, making them seem commonsensical, intuitive, and even desirable to other classes. So while the term hegemony has evolved since its inception, the core principle remains. Whether it's the dominance of one city-state over another in the ancient world, or the intellectual and moral dominance of one class over another in modern society, hegemony continues to be about one group exerting influence over another. It's about power, control, and the shaping of societal norms and ideas. Although the term has evolved, the core concept of one group exerting dominance over another remains. This is the essence of hegemony, a concept whose roots stretch back to the city-states of ancient Greece, but whose influence reaches forward into our modern world. The Italian politician and Marxist philosopher Antonio Gramsci brought the term hegemony into the limelight of political analysis. Gramsci's perspective on hegemony was rooted in his quest to comprehend the endurance of the capitalist state in highly developed Western societies. He saw the prevailing mode of governance as class rule and was intrigued by the mechanisms through which certain institutional forms and material relations of production gained prominence. In Gramsci's view, the supremacy of a class and the perpetuation of its associated mode of production could be achieved through brute force or manipulation. However, his groundbreaking observation was that in advanced capitalist societies, the continuity of class rule was maintained primarily through consensual means, via intellectual and moral leadership. This led Gramsci to analyze how capitalist ideas are propagated and accepted as normal, even intuitive. A hegemonic class, in his view, is one that succeeds in gaining the consent of other social groups. Maintaining this consent is an ongoing project that requires a group to understand its own interests in the context of the mode of production, as well as the motivations, aspirations, and interests of other groups. Under capitalism, Gramsci noted the relentless contribution of civil society institutions to the shaping of mass cognitions. Through his concept of the national popular, he demonstrated how hegemony required the articulation and distribution of popular ideas beyond narrow class interests. Gramsci's analysis of bourgeois hegemony was deeply rooted in detailed historical analysis, but it also carried clear implications for revolutionary socialist strategy. He believed that the acquisition of consent was crucial before gaining power. Gramsci distinguished between two strategies: the war of maneuver, essentially a full frontal assault on the bourgeois state, and the war of position, which involved engagement with and subversion of the mechanisms of bourgeois ideological domination. Gramsci's concept of hegemony extended beyond mere ideas and delved into processes of production. His understanding of hegemony has been widely applied in the analysis of international relations and international political economy, providing a unique perspective on the dynamics of political power. Gramsci's insights into hegemony offer a powerful lens through which to understand the persistence of class rule. His work continues to resonate today, shedding light on the complex dynamics of power, consent, and domination in our societies. Gramsci distinguished between two strategies for achieving hegemony. This distinction is the cornerstone of his political thought, and it's here that we delve deeper into the mechanics of hegemony. The first strategy is known as the war of maneuver. This strategy can be likened to a full frontal assault on the state. It's the stuff of revolutions, where the old order is toppled and replaced with a new one. It's direct, it's overt, and it's all about seizing power quickly. However, as history has shown us, this approach often meets with strong resistance and can result in violent conflict. Conversely, the second strategy, the war of position, is far more subtle, yet potentially far more transformative. This is not a head-on attack, but rather an engagement with and subversion of the mechanisms of ideological domination. It's about infiltrating the institutions of civil society, the schools, the churches, the media, and influencing them from within. It's about changing the very fabric of society's common sense, reshaping the collective consciousness, and redefining what's considered normal and acceptable. Both strategies have their place in the revolutionary socialist strategy, but Gramsci advocated more for the war of position. He saw it as a more sustainable, long-term approach to societal change. It's about winning hearts and minds, not just political power. It's about creating a new common sense that supports the ruling class's interests while appearing to be in the interest of all. This distinction between the war of maneuver and the war of position underscores the complexity of hegemony. It's not just about who has the power. It's about how that power is maintained and legitimized. It's about the intricate dance between material conditions and the realm of ideas, and how one informs and shapes the other. Gramsci's strategies reveal the complex interplay between ideas and power in the pursuit of hegemony. They invite us to look beyond the surface and to consider the deeper, often unseen forces that shape our world. The concept of hegemony has been applied to a wide array of fields, including international relations and political economy. One of the most extensive applications of Gramsci's conception of hegemony has been in these fields, through the lens of what we call transnational historical materialism. This approach takes the idea of hegemony beyond the confines of a single nation or state and examines how it operates on a global scale. It investigates how certain ideas, norms, and values, often originating from powerful nations or global institutions, become dominant on the international stage. These ideas then shape the policies, practices, and even identities of nations and individuals around the world. Imagine a world where the rules of the game, the terms of trade, and the standards of human rights are largely dictated by a few powerful entities. This is not a far-fetched scenario, but the reality of our globalized world. Transnational historical materialism asks us to critically examine this reality. It prompts us to question why certain norms and ideas are dominant and how they impact the lives of people across the globe. It challenges us to consider who benefits from these dominant ideas and who might be disadvantaged or marginalized. This approach also highlights the role of global institutions, like the World Bank or the United Nations, in disseminating and enforcing these dominant ideas. These institutions, often controlled by powerful nations, can significantly influence the policies and practices of less powerful nations. They can shape the narrative of what is considered normal or common sense in international relations and political economy. But it's not all doom and gloom. Recognizing hegemony also means recognizing the potential for change. After all, if ideas can become dominant, they can also be challenged and replaced. So, as we navigate our interconnected world, it's essential to keep the concept of hegemony in mind, to question the dominant narratives, to challenge the status quo, and to imagine alternative ways of being and relating to each other. As we can see, hegemony is a powerful force that shapes our world in ways we may not even realize.